Jeffrey with Lake County's 102.3 XLC. Now, something we've been doing for a while is we have a feature each weeknight. It's called New Music at 9. And we usually feature an artist maybe that you haven't heard on the station before. And it's definitely a song that you've never heard on the station before. So a couple of weeks ago, we found this particular song. And let me tell you, it was something that really stuck out. So I have that artist. The song is called Closer Than Close. And the artist is Naya. Naya, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule for us. Now, you recently got married.
Yes.
And
yes, as in a few days ago.
Awesome. Congratulations to you. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank
you for having me.
Yeah, so things aren't just starting off real great. I mean, so why don't you tell us what happened as part of your wedding?
So I was unfortunately sick with what I thought was a bad cold on my wedding day. And I actually live in Uruguay and my fiance is from here. So my whole family flew in for the wedding. And when they were supposed to fly out right after the wedding, it was chaos. I was like, okay, me and my husband are going to get time alone. We're going to get a break. They go to the airport. And next thing I know, I get a call from my husband. He's like, well, we're coming back. And my whole family is back. And we'll be back for another week because they had COVID. And so longer than I really expected. But that's okay. We still got the honeymoon coming up. Just had to push some things back.
Yeah. Oh, my. So is this like your first bout with it, with COVID?
Me, yeah. My
Okay.
husband had it. We took a trip to Iceland and he got it there.
Oh, wow.
But it was pretty, like, we'd been vaccinated, like 3 vaccines, and it was pretty mild there. Like, he had 2 days. And so, yeah, I mean, hey, it could be worse. I'm vaccinated. It just feels like a bad cold that's kind of dragging.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
could be much worse.
No, I understand. Well, enough about like all the bad stuff, like all this good stuff that you're doing. So you've released a couple of singles this year. Closer Than Close is one of them. That's the one that we featured on New Music at 9. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that particular song?
So yeah, sure. So Closer Than Close is a really cool song. It's one of my favorites in the recent body of work that I've done. And I got to work with the real dream team on Closer Than Close. I got to work, it was produced by Brian Kennedy. And he's done a lot of really cool work for Rihanna and other artists like that.
Wow.
I worked with a really interesting songwriter named Median, and she was really critical to that song. And she wrote Sandcastles for Beyonce. And usually I write almost all my stuff, but I love collaborating with people because it just brings in another flavor that maybe I don't offer, So Median brought this song to me, and I added a bridge and I kind of put my spin on it. And I just really thought it was a beautiful song that talked about kind of finding this person. To me, finding this person that really felt like home. And I thought that was a really special sentiment because I travel a lot for work. I live in Uruguay like half the time, and then I'm in LA for like a month. So I go back and forth. And it always feels like so nice to come back to my husband. And, it is a different lifestyle to have as a couple. So it can be straining. But it's how I make work. So yeah, so I just felt that was really special. And there's some lines in there that are really interesting, like he loves me. Oh God, how does it go? I love me, he loves me for that. I think that's one of the lines in the first verse. And I really felt like that was talking about really healthy love. And I think sometimes that's not the example we're given in film and literature. It's like very tragic and large. Instead, it's very empowering as a woman to think, okay, this person loves me because I love myself too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, your husband seems very supportive of what you do, and that's a bonus all in itself. So that's great.
Definitely. He definitely puts up with a lot, and he takes care of our dogs alone a lot. So
wow.
I appreciate it.
So how many dogs do you have?
I have 2. I have a border collie, and I have a poodle schnauzer mix. But
Okay.
the border collie is a little better suited for the countryside where I live. and,
Yeah.
and the poodle schnauzer is always trying to get herself killed one way or another in the countryside. So she's just on leash all the time. So I'm like, okay.
Wow. Hanging out here with Naya. And Naya, everyone can check out your website, thisisnaya.com. There's a lot of information there. You can see some of the cool videos that Naya has put out. There's also links to all of your social media, on Facebook, on TikTok, Instagram. This is Naya. That's where you're going to find all that information. So Naya, you did have a song that came out earlier this year too, in February, The Real You.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that song came about?
So that is actually my most favorite song that I've ever written. I wrote that song predominantly, but it was a really personal song about an experience that I had with someone I was very close with. A lot of people jump to romantic. It wasn't a romantic relationship. It was actually a platonic relationship, but it was somebody who I really regarded as family, who made some decisions which led to our parting. But and that really hurt me. It was someone in my life who losing really hurt. And so I think a lot of people can relate to that, whether it's romantic or platonic. That, you know, we all experience betrayal in one way or another. And that was that song for me. And it felt like the positive that came out of that experience in a way. It also felt like one of my first like fully formed choruses, because as a writer, I'm always like, is that chorus where it needs to be? So I have a really special attachment to that song for multiple reasons. So thank you for asking me about that one. That's great.
Yeah, no problem at all. So, I mean, it seems like your music, it's really hard to it's really hard to define it as far as a particular genre. I mean, other than it's good music, which is, you know, people ask me all the time, what kind of music do you like? I like good music. You know, it doesn't matter what type of genre it is. And your music definitely falls into that category. And then looking at some of the videos and things that you've done, I mean, who are some of your biggest influences on your music?
Well, they're really varied. I actually listen to almost everything but like hard metal. I never could get quite the taste for that, but
Okay.
I love like old school jazz. I like Frank Sinatra. That was like my first musical love. But I went a lot like in my teens, I really fell in love with neo soul music, like Flowetry or like that kind of, you know, that genre. And then I really, as I got older, I'm 25, soon to be 26 now. So in my early 20s, I really got into like the internet and a little more of like Tyler the Creator and more fusion, like R&B, neo soul fusion. So it's such a mix. That being said, I love the 70s pop. I love 80s pop. Those are my parents raised me on that music. They're like 10 years apart. So it's so varied and that's what you're hearing. But I always felt that it being good was more important than like restricting myself to a genre. I know that's not always like the old school industry mentality, you know, so sometimes that can be problematic for placements and things, but I think that it's worth just being free. I mean, it's, for me, being an artist is about being an artist and expressing myself and not feeling like I have to be in a box.
Oh, absolutely. So Naya, so I'm a lot older than you are, and you were mentioning Frank Sinatra. So back in college, I was actually able to see Frank Sinatra, like in
Oh, that's
concert.
amazing.
Yeah, it was like it was a
Wow.
total like magical experience. It was on his final tour.
Oh my
But yeah, that
God.
was one of those things that was just like, wow, it was next level.
So how old would he have been, you think?
I, I think it was
Yeah,
like a
he'd
year
have to
before
be.
he passed away. Yeah. So I mean, he lived
Wow. Wow.
into his 80s, right? Is that about right?
That's crazy. And how was his voice? Like, did it feel the same, like, as it was for his young recordings, or?
I mean, you know, as people age and get older and things like that, I mean, he definitely still had his he always had a really great knack for phrasing, right? So I think like his
Yeah,
phrasing is
timing, really
absolutely,
incredible.
yeah,
Yeah.
impeccable. So he still had that. Was he a little bit, you know, pitchy or what have you? I mean, Sure, but he was still Frank Sinatra. You know what I mean?
No, no, of course. I mean, I would have loved that. That's amazing. No, and I mean, it's really incredible when you look like it gives a different color to certain artists. Like if you listen to like Anita Baker or Alita Adams or some of these artists now, that their voices are still so spot on to what they
Hmm.
were when they were, in their prime. We'll put that in quotations. I'm not saying that but when they were at their highest popular peak, basically.
Right, right.
So yeah, you really, I mean, like another one that I really loved, Sarah Vaughan. She's kind of more in the Frank Sinatra timing,
Yeah.
but what a amazing instrument. Like just listening to the way that she moves her voice, it's so fluid. It's really like she's probably one of my biggest inspirations as a singer and as like technique and sound like coming together. Yeah, I could geek out on that
Okay.
a lot.
Yeah, no, I get it. So, and then looking too at your YouTube channel, looking at your website and stuff like that, two really big influences, I would imagine, because you've done a couple of covers on there, and they're two really great covers. People need to check this out. This is Naya over on YouTube, and this is Naya.com. That's the website that will get you where you need to go. So you do a Aaliyah cover.
Yeah, I love that
It's
song.
so
Are
good.
You That
Oh, I
Somebody?
love it. So it's one of my favorite Aaliyah
Thank you so
songs
much.
too. So Are You That Somebody? Yeah, that was great.
Well, thank you. No, that's my favorite and my husband's favorite actually. He's always like, "Oh, you should do more like this." But I mean, it's such a cool time in music, and it's such a notable like the way that you played. It has soul vibe. Everything has a soul vibe, right? But
Mhm.
but it has so much like rhythm and attitude and expression coupled with it, which is what really made that R&B period really interesting. I think a lot of people are like, at least in the recent past, like at least past 3 years, a lot of people have been drawn back to that era,
Yeah,
to try to kind of recapture some of that magic, because it still has a really soulful feel, but it also has that upbeat like thing that keeps you going, like which is very radio.
for sure, for sure. No,
Yeah,
I think it's radio friendly by all
yeah,
means. And then you also do a Carole King cover, which Carole
yes.
King, I mean, Tapestry, it's one of my top 5 albums of all time, for sure.
She was an incredible writer. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And at a
And
young
that
age,
album is,
too.
yeah, no, she was really a prolific writer, and her songs, I think a big test of music is if you listen to it so many years later and it still holds that same kind of quality to it, because then it wasn't really about the trend, it was about the song itself. And that album is so much like that, like the whole, like you could play that for a lot of people as long as their ears are open and they don't prejudge like, oh, this is from this era. Most people I think can really feel like, wow, this song is talking about something I can relate to. Like it's like, okay, this is, you know what I mean? So it's really solid songwriting. It's a gift for, for everyone to have in their collection.
Awesome. So we're spending some time with Naya here, and be sure to check out Naya. The website is This Is Naya. On social media, This Is Naya, and that is NYA, Naya. So,
Yes.
Naya, what else do you have planned for this year musically?
Okay, well, actually, I have a lot of songs finished, pretty much an album, about 15 songs,
Perfect.
maybe more.
Okay.
And so we're kind of figuring out how we want to package that, whether we're going to release a few more singles this year, accompanied by some live performance, and obviously more content, like more videos as well as live performance. And then probably leaning towards an album release top of next year.
Perfect.
So lots of things coming. I'm super excited. I've been working for the past like year and a half, 2 years on an album, and just on a lot of music that then just kind of came together to be, okay, let's release an album.
Okay.
So yeah.
Now,
Can't
was
wait
a
to
lot of
share
that kind of a result of the pandemic? Did you see that you were a little bit more creative during that time, just the way that the world was?
I think that it was definitely partially due to the pandemic. In the pandemic, I moved to Uruguay with my husband, and we had been living formerly. We lived together in LA. He's an architect, and he was working on a project, and then his visa expired. Blah blah, and
Okay.
we came to Uruguay for just a little bit. We were gonna go back to France, where he was based, and then we just kind of fell in love with it. We live like in the middle of the countryside here. It's beautiful. We're like a 5-minute drive from the coast. It's a really beautiful country. And I think that the fact that I had this beautiful nature and this space to really like decompress away from LA, I needed that for my own mental, emotional well-being, and that helped me. And that helped me be more creative. That helped me be a more reflective writer, a better human. So yeah, I mean, definitely really grateful for what transpired for me during the pandemic. I know that was a hard time for a lot of people, so I don't say that lightly. I know, but
Yeah.
I did have a lot of growth and space to reflect during that slowdown.
Perfect. Well, cool. We're definitely looking forward to any new music that you're going to release. By all means, keep us in the loop with that too.
Definitely.
Like I said, make sure to check out the website, thisisnaya.com, all the social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, also on SoundCloud too. If you have a SoundCloud account, by all means, check out all of Naya's music that's there. And Naya, it's been great talking to you. By all means, like I said, the music that you've released thus far, if that's anything like what we can see from you in the future, the future is very bright indeed.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. I'm so grateful to be on, and thank you again for playing the music. It's a gift.
Yeah, no problem at all. So I think we'll probably be talking again in the future. So like I said, just keep us in the loop here as far as any new music that comes out, okay?
Definitely will. I hope you have a great night.
All right, you too, Naya. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.